Observe as if you were not inside the scene. No judgment, no reaction, just continuous noticing.
Navigation in the void, not finding the way through landmarks but remaining functional when landmarks fail. In float tanks, in deep meditation, at the edge of psychedelic dissolution, where normal orientation collapses like a map dissolving in water, movement continues through tracking difference, the gradient between this state and the last. The shift too subtle for categories, but precise enough to follow. This capacity, not mystical, operational, the ability to move through territories where here and there lose meaning, where the sense of location dissolves, but navigation persists through sensitivity to change alone. For those who work in extraordinary states, this becomes practical infrastructure. Not getting lost when reference fails, but tracking transitions, the way sailors read currents, in fog too thick for coastlines.
We often arrive with the same question in the background. What came first? The event or the reaction to it? The outside or what happened inside us? At first, this feels like the right question, as if finding the order would explain everything. But if we stay with it long enough, we notice something simple. The question does not take us anywhere. Because no matter how far we trace things back, there is always a moment where something just happens. Not as a thought, not as a decision, as movement. Before we choose a position, before we explain, before we decide what this is, something shifts in us. Sometimes it tightens. Sometimes it pulls us closer. Sometimes it creates distance. Sometimes it waits. It does not ask what we believe. It does not wait for understanding. And this is usually why we are here. Not because we plan to be, not because we agree with what we hear, not because we already know what this is about. We are here because something reacted. That reaction may feel clear or unclear. It may feel open, resistant, curious, confusing, or expectant. The form does not matter. What matters is that it happened first. Before meaning, before judgment, before choice. From here, we often get stuck again. We try to decide whether the world caused the reaction or whether the reaction shaped how the world appeared. But this question keeps us busy without helping, because something more basic becomes obvious. Whatever is happening now is happening with us. Not because we caused it, not because we failed to control it, simply because we are present where movement is already taking place. This is not about blame, and not about mastery. It is about participation. Experience and response do not come one after the other, they arise together. At some point, this stops being an idea and becomes a practical fact. We notice that reacting is already movement. And movement does not need to be corrected in order to be followed. This is where navigation begins. Not by changing the reaction, not by explaining it away, not by turning it into insight. Navigation begins by staying with what is already moving long enough to sense its direction. It does not matter whether the movement pushes forward or pulls back. It does not matter whether it holds, dissolves, waits, or reaches. Each response is already usable. Not a stage, not a problem. A starting point. From here, nothing needs to improve. Reactions are not mistakes, they are not obstacles. They are simply the places where movement is easiest to notice. And learning to notice movement before we label it is already a form of training. This has nothing to do with belief systems, nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with borrowed traditions. It works for anyone who finds themselves inside experience before having an explanation for it. We do not have to like what appears. We do not have to agree with it. Even resistance works. Because whatever shows up can serve as an entry point. Staying here does not mean staying still. It means not leaving at the first impulse to judge, explain, or escape. It means allowing movement to show itself before turning it into a conclusion. Those of us who learn to stay this way, we call surfers of the void. In older language, this way of moving had a simple name. Shunya Yatrika. Moving through emptiness by tracking movement. This movement, any movement.
We continue learning how to read it. Remember, you are the program.